Perfectionism is fundamentally the enemy of finishing our creative work. In this video, I want to show you why perfectionism stops us from getting things done and what we can do about that instead. I'm Dr. Alan Johnson, and on The Art of Creative Practice, I talk about mind, well-being, productivity, and change for thinkers, makers, and everyone in between. And in today's video, I want to take this step by step. First, I want to look at how perfectionism shows up in our lives, how it presents itself to the world, because it doesn't always look the way that we think it does. Then we'll talk about what it's actually doing to our creative work before we take a different look at approaching things where we can still take our creative work seriously, still value good outcomes and good products, but doing so without that constant voice of perfectionism in our ear. And stay with me to the end, because there's a significant shift in mindset I want to share that is going to bring a noticeable difference for you straight away. And if this type of material is useful to you, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And I'll pop some links below to our free Art of Creative Practice co-working sessions that we do and the other workshops and the really fantastic growing community of creatives all around the world. Let's begin, first of all, by talking about the seduction of perfectionism. Perfectionism tends to arrive as something that looks really respectable. It's saying to us that we take our work seriously, that we do our work properly, that we don't like to rush projects. And all of that might sound well and good. If you care about what you're making, whether it is writing or teaching or research or art, it's really easy to agree with that voice. It feels like that is the voice of standards. But the problem with perfectionism is that instead of helping you move through and into your work, it starts to slow you down. Perfectionism is just fancy procrastination, because we go back to the same thing over and over again. We go back to that same sentence. We go back to that same canvas. We go back to that same idea, never really trusting that we have gotten it to where it should be. And then the work stops moving. That is the point where the real problem begins. Because what perfectionism is actually doing isn't just keeping us honest. It isn't just making sure that we produce good work. Perfectionism is, underneath the surface, about avoiding a certain kind of exposure. Perfectionism is a demonstration of fear that we give a different name to so we can feel better about it. Perfectionism is about avoiding being misunderstood. It is about avoiding producing something that isn't as strong as you would like. It's about avoiding letting something go out into the world before it feels ready. The real problem with creative work, and the reason that perfectionism comes up for so many creatives, is because creative work does not develop in a straight line. Okay? The perfectionist mind wants everything to be neat and orderly and tidy, that if we begin something and put in consistent effort over time, it will reach a point of perfection. Well, no creative project reaches a point of perfection. We might get close, and we can certainly be proud of something, but it is not an upward trajectory of movement toward perfection, because we know, and you know this absolutely, that creative work moves through very different cycles and flows. It moves through rough versions and partial ideas, and then goes back to the drawing board, and then moves into things that are slowly beginning to take shape. Our perfectionism tries to prevent us from allowing the creative process to flow through its natural course. It tries to produce something that is finished without going through that long, awkward, complex, and sometimes painful process that ultimately does enable our creative work to feel finished. So we end up with a standard. We set a standard for ourselves that cannot be met at the point in the process that we are trying to meet it. And then things just stall. This is where creative blocks begin. It would be really useful to hear in the comments below where this is showing up for you in your work. If it's showing up at those early stages of when you're getting started or getting to the end, or do you feel that perfectionism coming up when it's coming time to show your work to other people? Put those in the comments below or send me a message and let me know. Because what is most important to remember is that perfectionism is not about having high standards. Perfectionism is a subconscious mechanism that is trying to protect us from exposure. So what does this cost us? If we are constantly hearing that voice of perfectionism, well, it costs us all of that unfinished work that just keeps accumulating, those drafts that maybe never get there, or those projects that are kind of hovering in the background, but we are fearing the exposure that work on them might bring. Individually, this doesn't seem like all that much, but over time, and if we reflect back on all the projects that have been stalled in this way, we can see how our perfectionism is affecting our work in significant ways, and it has a knock-on effect. If we are working on a creative project and we are getting through those early stages, and then the voice of perfectionism kicks in that no one will read this, that no one will like this, that I may as well just stop here because I'm never going to be able to do it, and then we put that draft, we put that canvas, we put that composition into the drawer, what have we just done? Not only have we abandoned a project that we have already put time, care, and attention into, but we have told ourselves that we are the type of person who abandons projects. So therefore, our next project we begin to approach with less confidence, which means that that pattern can become really easy to be repeated. What's striking about all of this is that perfectionism, which we think is about improving quality, usually results in less work and less good work overall. And the work that isn't finished isn't going to have any impact, whether it is good or not. So we need to think then about a different way to approach this, a way to reframe our perfectionism. The alternative is not to stop caring about quality. When I'm saying that we can come into different relationship with our perfectionist mind, I'm not saying throw all your standards out the window. Instead, I'm saying what we need to focus on instead is the stages of the creative process. Creative work tends to move through a sequence. Maybe it's a first draft, some further development, a point where it feels complete enough to begin sharing. If you focus on getting something through each of those stages, even if it doesn't feel finished or perfect yet, but you move it to the next stage where it continues to develop, it continues to grow, it continues to change, you create the conditions for improvement. Those steps in the creative process are how ideas continue to improve. So if you let your ideas get stuck at just one of those stages, they're never going to improve. It never reaches the point where you feel like you are really, really able to share it with the world. One way to make this concrete is to think in versions. So with work documents, we talk about version control a lot when there are lots of updates being made and things. It's version 1, version 2, version 3.1, 3.2, and onward. So instead of treating a piece of creative work as a single attempt that has to go well, begin to think of it as something that will change over time. Version 1 might be complete or uneven. And do you know what? That's fine. And it's not even just fine, it's what we expect of the first version. A second version, version 2, it might begin to clarify a little bit more what your aims and intentions and perspectives were. Is it perfect? No. Is it meant to be perfect? Absolutely not. That is just version 2. A third version, version 3, it might begin to improve structure or form or clarity of vision or perception. And that is fine as well. Each version gives you something to work with. And this can change our experience of creative work quite a bit. We're no longer trying to get everything right in one pass. We consciously become aware of the fact that we are working with material that develops over time. And that the inner perfectionist that we have is trying to apply standards to a stage of work where they are inappropriate. Thinking in terms of version control, version 1, 2, and 3 of your project also makes starting easier because you're not aiming for that finished project. You're aiming for that first draft. You're aiming for something that can be shaped over time. It can really help to think of finishing as part of the work itself, not as something that happens once the work is good enough. Finishing a piece of work and sharing it with the world, those are steps in the creative process. Those are not signs of perfection. Finishing is what allows our work to enter the world, to be read, to be seen, to be tested, to be responded to. And without that step in the creative process, the work remains private and hidden and fixed. But with it, with that final sharing stage, the work becomes something that continues to change because it is read, it is seen, it is shared, it is explored by others. If you want to take this further, I will link another video, it should be right up there now, that will take you into further explanation of this. And if you want more structure around your creative life, have a look at the links to our online community below, because you will find a whole bunch of practical workshops and our really, really popular weekly co-working session, which you are welcome to join. As always, let me know in the comments the thoughts, the ideas, the questions that came up for you in this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time.